I'm live. I hope this is being recorded, by the way, because who's going to watch this live on YouTube? Um, so I started this because I was going to actually make a video for my channel, and I thought, well, I'll just make a live one, and I could have done that over on the TikToks, but I thought I'd do it over here because my YouTube I like better overall because I do go on. But what I was trying to do, and maybe I should turn the camera a little bit. I think I want to turn it too much because I'll be off the camera. Is for a long time now. So this is something completely different. Now for something completely different, as they say in the Monty Python-esque. I have well, I'm gonna have to stand up and get it. I have an 854/948. Now this one's slightly modified, but this is an 854/948 go-kart. One of my favorite sets. It is my favorite Technic set, just because I got it first. Again, I like first. I got this for my 10th birthday, 1977, when Technic was released. And this is what kept me interested in Lego past when most kids were putting it away. Classic Space and Technic kept me going. Again, I had the fire station from 1973 or 74. I had the police station, again, the pre minifigs, even with the minifigs without arms. I had the sets before then, and then Terry and Brian and I would have the basic sets, the 2, 4, 6, 8 basic sets, and blah blah blah. So 1977 was a bit of a deal changer, a bit of a game changer, where that's supposed to be one. Let me just see. I'm pulling pieces for something, so that's how this whole thing started. So yes, one. Okay. So I was 10 when I got this set. I'll put that right there. Right sign. Because I'm not building another one, but this is something I'm going to do. So that's going to be a tangent in a couple seconds. So the 948/854 set was utterly fantastic. And again, just like a year or two later, when I got the 918 and my friends got the 928, because my parents couldn't buy me the big red supercar, the first supercar, the car chassis, 1977, the 853. Although I saw it in the store, and my faulty recollection, I recall it being $53 on the shelf. This is 1977. $53 is a lot of money back in the 70s. Not now at all. That's just like allowance. But this is like gas tank, less than a gas tank. So 1977, I vaguely recall it being $53 because the year later, the Galaxy Explorer was also $53, if I remember correctly. And so I got the 854 one year, and I got the 918 the next year. And those two things were an eye opener. I had minifigs before I got the 918. I had two of the small original minifig cars, the 600 police car and the 603, 604, the shell truck, which weren't, the people, the minifigs couldn't go into vehicles, but minifigs nonetheless. But the first minifig set that I got where the minifig could go into whatever was in the set was the 918. So that was great too. So, but anyway, Technic was utterly fantastic. And it wasn't too long into the 80s, I would say the early 80s, when I was at a garage sale. And this is pre my Commodore 64 era. But I was at a garage sale, the church sale, I believe it was. Our church, 50 Church, had a yard sale every year. And I was there because my parents, who are my parents, and we would always be, involved in setting up and or organizing or whatever. And we're over at Mrs. Furry's house, and she had boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff that she's going through, that she's putting stickers on and blah blah blah. And she comes across this toy tank, RC, radio controlled tank. Now again, radio control back then is a lot different than it is now, straight up. Because I was heavily involved in RC, radio controlled. There wasn't too much nuance with RC back then. There was very, very limited RC vehicles that you could get. And even the the speed. They would take double the D-size batteries for the motors if you had a big vehicle, whatever. C-size batteries normally 9 volt to run the actual circuit board and blah blah blah. Anyway, so there was a toy tank, obviously used toy tank, in one of the boxes, and Mrs. Free is a friend of the family. And she pulls it out. It had no tank treads on it. Like, it was completely useless as a tank, as a toy to sell. And she rightly, again, there was a bit of a sermon I could go into that Reverend Reed told us when we were there about kids donating crap to these things, that I still remember to this day. And this is like, I was single digits when I remember hearing this. Anyway, so she goes, well, because I'm helping her. She goes, Dave, why don't you just take this home? Just take this home. The tank and the control, like, we can't sell it. It's crap because it's got no treads. Don't even know if it works. So thanks, Mrs. Furry. Fantastic. So I take it home and I rip it apart, as I was prone to do back then, talking to my parents. But what I did do is I took the circuit board that was, again, solid state, because it's not in the 50s. I mean, it's not vacuum tubes. It is 70s. It's a solid state circuit board, but it had the capacitors and the resistors and whatever. And it had like 9 volt in for the control, and it had 4.5 volt in for the actual motors. And it used, I don't think it actually used relays, but some sort of the hardware relay to turn the motors forward or backwards or off. Because it's a tank, so it's a skid steer, right? So that made it easier overall. So what I did is I took the circuit board out of the tank threw away, kept the circuit board with all the leads on it for the power and the antenna and whatever, and I built a Lego brick around it. The circuit board was almost exactly 6x8, so I made the box 8x10. I think it is. It might be 4x6, anyway, I could dig it up somewhere. So I actually don't even. I'm not going to stop the video. It's probably over there. Anyway, so I dug out the circuit board. I built a Lego brick model around it. It was 3 bricks high, with a lid on it. And then what I did is, because I had the 4.5 volt motors, the gray ones, the good ones for Technic, by the 80s, early 80s, as I soldered wires, made the plugs. I drip solder in between 1x2s and 1x4s, in between here all the way through there, and then I drilled holes. so you can plug in the 4.5 volt plugs, the wires with the plugs on the end, and that worked fantastically well. And I put 2 battery boxes on there, 2 of the C-size, the little tubes. Again, I've tons of those. Have you seen in my collection before? And then I put a 9 volt battery in there for the control unit, and I had the controller, and I built a Lego tank. Because because I didn't have any of the tank treads yet. They were released in sets in the early 80s. The bulldozer 855 or whatever it is, the yellow bulldozer, 852. I don't know what one it is. I don't know what the number is, but I built it. But they already had the tank treads. I had to order those from Spectrum. I think it was called Spectrum. The Spectrum DACTA or DACTA Spectrum Educational Services, Aurora, Ontario. I can't remember exactly how I got the brochure, because it didn't come with the Lego, but they sold educational Lego sets. And I got a hold of one of their brochures, and I had to fill out the form. I called on the phone, I filled out the form, put a check in there, because again, this is the early 80s, the internet doesn't exist. And I mailed it off to Spectrum saying I want, I think I ordered 13 packages of the tank treads, and I think there's 50 a piece. So it was a service pack. Now, I could have, because the back of the Lego brochures also had the tank treads as a service pack, but I got these from Spectrum DACTA. I don't think it was Spectrum DACTA. I can't remember what it's called, because Spectrum was not Lego. DACTA was Lego, but it was Aurora, Ontario, and they supplied to the educational for schools and stuff. So a few weeks later, I get in the mail a package of 13 packages of tank treads. And then I finished my tank. And I've had so much fun with that, because I built the Lego tank, and it was reminiscent, and to this day, this is what I keep on doing. It was reminiscent of this tank tread thing. So, except this is with my SEQ. Thank you, SEQ. Uh, but um, but basically, I use this platform throughout my life overall. I built the same thing over and over again, and so the two C-size 4.5 volt battery packs would sit in the middle here, and then my little control box that I built would sit on top, and I used the Technic beams to hold them in. And then so that's what I did with that broken tank. And it I still have the control unit over there and the controller over there. Now the controller is just the tank, it says the tank on it. And so it's not Lego. But I have no idea if it still works. Because why would I want to test it? But anyway, so that got me through my early teens until, and of course I was still buying classic space at the time. But I was also buying Technic sets. I bought the 8844, the helicopter. I think it's 8844. Again, I'm not really great with numbers except for sets that I absolutely adore. But if I walked into the store in high school, if I walked into Zeller's or a store in high school, I would go to the Lego section and I would see what classic space sets they had and I would see what Technic sets they had. And I would either walk out with a space set or walk out with a Technic set. Now, back then, on the Technic set side, there wasn't a wide variety of sets. Like if you bought the supercar, the original Supercar 853, and there was only like 6 or 8 sets that year, including this one, and the helicopter and the bulldozer and the motorcycle. And I have a box because I built them all. But after that, they didn't release a lot of Technic sets per year, but they had a few and they would span a few years. So I bought the 8844 one time. It was fantastic. I bought the supercar, the second supercar that didn't have the suspension in the front, but had it in the back, and the cylinder block in the back. And then I bought the third supercar that had the red chassis around it that had full suspension. Fantastic. And then what was after that? Was the 8880 after that? I can't remember. I think there might have been a supercar between the red, gray, and black one and the 8880, but I could be wrong about that. But I bought an 8880. So, and then the last supercar I ever bought was the 8448. So I bought the first 5 or 6, besides the first one, the 853, because I did not buy that off the store shelf. And it was not available when I started working, obviously, and started my own money. It was long gone. But I own 2 of them now because I got them in used lots. But I did buy the second, third, fourth, fifth, at least the next 5, the next 4 or 5 supercars. And I also bought I think it's the 8448. The 844 is a black, the red sports looking car. But the big gold or green 4x4 with the big knobby tires on it. Bought that one. And I bought but that was when my Technic was absolutely waning for me. It was becoming the mid-90s, and I stopped buying Technic sets. I stopped buying Lego from the stores overall. I wanted a space shuttle, but that was one of the last sets I ever wanted on that scale, on the Technic side. I don't own a Unimog. I don't own hardly any new Technic sets. I've bought Josh a few. We got the Ferrari out there that came out last year or the year before. Got that one on deep discount. Fantastic build. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It was fun getting back into Technic, but it's not my cup of tea anymore. Because this is my era. Where's Technic bricks? And not the studless and not the 5,000 pieces. And again, I love them. I love looking at them. I look at them from a distance. But the Technic and this classic space got me well into the 80s. Well into finishing high school, because I mentioned after high school I moved into a house with 4 of my friends, and or 3 of my friends, I was the 4th, and I put my bed in the basement. The unfinished, well, it was a finished basement, but it was the entire basement. There was no middle walls. The furnace was right over there, and my bed's over here, and there was a ping pong table over in the corner, and I kind of commandeered the ping pong table to be my classic space layout. And I already had the Futuron monorail with all the expansions, so it was a pretty big classic space layout. And I had a great time with that. And of course, I had my bin full of bricks, and just had a great time. And so the classic space kept me going after that, into my 20s and 30s, and then the garage sailing, and then the thrift stores, and then the flea markets, and then the ad in the paper, and I never gave it up. So, but Technic and Classic Space got me through. So this brings it right back to this guy. So, got this for my 10th birthday, and one of my favorite sets, period, of old Lego, because it's perfect for what it is. It doesn't have to be bigger. It doesn't have to be better, quote unquote better. It's perfect the way it is. You get the fundamentals of pistons and steering and blah 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 from this set, and it's very minimal pieces, and you don't have to spend a lot of time putting it together. And there's not a 5,000 piece set to build a small go kart like this. And it was a lot of fun, and then I motorized it, and then I there's a video on my YouTube channel from a long time ago. We were at the, I don't think we were at the hobby show, might have been the hobby show, I can't remember, where I got a capacitor and I put it, well, that's exactly what I did here. So there's a capacitor in the back. And you charge the capacitor and you put it on the floor and you let the thing drive across the floor. There's no, controlling it, because the capacitor will just go until the capacitor stops. But I did that at a show, like less than 20 years ago. And I had fun doing it. So, and for those of you who do know me, and you can go back in my video feed again, at some of the shows that I've done, Brick Fets and stuff, I have brought all my 854s. And then you say it's blue and black. I have made every single color iteration you can of this set. Every single color, by changing the blue out with yellow Technic bricks, or white Technic bricks, or red and gray, both old and new gray, both old and new dark gray. Tan worked out. Dark blue, beautiful. I'm a very big fan of dark blue. Brown, green. I have a bunch of them. I haven't finished orange yet, because orange doesn't have a consistent range of Technic bricks yet. The orange doesn't have 1x16, 1x8, 1x4, 1x2, which is all the ones you need for this guy. Doesn't have them all. They have orange in different colors. They have the burnt orange and the regular orange and the stupid new yellowy orange, bright whatever orange. So I did all that. I think I have 18, 6, 12, 18. I have 18 supercars built for display. And I even ordered, there was a place in Holland years ago, and I'm sure you can just do it down the street now, but there was a place in Holland years ago that would chrome bricks for you. And so if you ordered the bricks from him, of course, then it's cheaper, because I don't have to ship bricks to Holland to get chrome. They just order from his store. It was the Bricklink store years ago. And then he would chrome them and ship them to you. So I got all the, and thankfully he had on his Bricklink store all the blue pieces. They didn't have to be blue because they're gonna be chrome, but all the specific pieces that are going to be blue. He had them all, including the 1x16, the 1x8, the 1x4, the 4x12 in the bottom, 4x10 in the bottom, blah blah blah. And I had him chrome them all. It cost me $94, and this is again 20 plus years ago, $94. And he shipped them to me, and I have a chrome supercar, I mean a go-kart in my collection that is, it gleams, it glitters. It's fantastic. I love doing stuff like that. Hey, you chrome Lego bricks? Hey, chrome these. So, like, it's yes, it's third-party chroming, because Lego releases chrome bricks, but not the pieces that I wanted. And so this set it means something to me, and what I've been planning forever is to, when you buy this set, and as with most sets in the 70s and 80s and not anymore, is it has alternate builds. This set definitely had alternate builds, and it had instructions for alternate builds, which the non-Technic sets didn't have. Like, you look at the classic space sets, we all still talk about it to this day, that the classic space sets all had alternate builds on the back, but you had to look at the picture and you have to say, how did they build that? And you built it, and with the pieces that came in the box. And the smaller the set, the easier it is to build the 3 or 4 different builds on the back. And the bigger it is, do I still have it here? I do. This is an alternate build that's on the back of the box. I love this alternate build, and I went into this one time. I don't have the original out here. I actually have it in storage. Storage. Yeah, I don't have one up here. Um, but this alternate build is one of my favorite alternate builds from many of my classic space sets. Because let's go off on a quick tangent. This alternate build is just 100% reminiscent of Flight of the Phoenix, which is a fantastic movie from 1956, maybe later or somewhere around there. They redid it a bunch of years back. The remake was also very good, but the original, I remember seeing it when I was a kid on TV, obviously, because I wasn't in the movie theaters. I wasn't even born in 56 or whenever that movie was released, but the story was fantastic and the movie was fantastic. And when I saw this in the back of the box, I said, this is Flight of the Phoenix in classic space, because this looks like the set that it's supposed to, that it came from, that you got the instructions for, except it's a little smaller, it's a little scaled down, it's a little slightly different. So what I kept on picturing as soon as I saw this is that the guy's out there with his rocket scooter, and he smashes it into the ground, and he has to rebuild it to get out of whatever precarious situation he's in to get back to civilization. And this is what he built to get back. So I built this, and this is still together. So it is one of my favorite alternate builds. But anyway, the alternate builds for Technic sets, they had instructions for. Yeah, I know. So the oh, I didn't know this. The text is gone. I should have this. I don't know if I can actually see this on my computer screen over here because I'm on my. Let me just open up a new channel and go to my. If I'm live streaming this, I want to see this. People have actually responded to this, and I'm sorry I haven't been responding back. Hi everybody. So, anywho, um, there's one alternate build on the box of a motorcycle that they didn't have the instructions for, but you can tell on the box how to build the motorcycle, and I have that already built, and it's in the box for when I bring it to a show with my other 18 go-karts. I'm gonna build the chopper now, and so I'm pulling the parts and for to build the chopper, and the chopper does have instructions because it was in the same booklet that this go-kart came in. And the last, they had 3 builds. This is off the top of my head. I haven't seen the booklet in 30 years. But what I do remember is the chopper is in there with the build, with the instructions how to build it. And a tire, well, if you go to the auto shop, it's a tire puller and a tire, the rubber swapper on the rims. And I never liked that build. I never did. I built it once when I got the set back in '77. I'm going, this is like the worst thing I ever built. It was the mechanism was kind of cute, but I thought it was basically useless. So I wasn't happy with the tire puller, but the chopper was really cool. And so I wanted for 20 years now, it's been on my mind since I started building my multicolored supercars. And my number one issue for not building the chopper is I had run out of 1x16 Technic bricks because not only have I built a bunch of blue cars here in my space layout, because it's a space layout and it's a classic space layout, which means I use blue a lot in the classic space layout. I mean, I probably own maybe 20 or 30 1x16 Technic beams. They're in there and I'm not taking that apart. So I had to wait until I bought a used lot that came with Technic beams. And so it has been on my mind for the longest time. And I kept on thinking, and this again over the last 20 years, at least 20 years now, since I've had a classic space layout and since I've had a thought for these supercars, that I would buy used lots. And you've seen my video. If you watch my videos, you can go back. I've actually got this set a few times over the years now from the lots I've gotten, and I built a car. And then I was going to build a chopper, but I don't want to take apart the car. So the car stays together. And so I actually got a few weeks ago, I got a used lot, and it came with 2 1x16s. And hey, now I'm going to build a chopper. So this is my night, and it's already past 11, so I'm going to go to bed now. But I am pulling the parts, so there's going to be yet another video tomorrow, maybe it's the weekend, where I'm going to build a chopper, and I might do that live as well because I'm going to get used to doing this stuff live. Some people like it. I don't edit my videos anyway, so I don't know why I keep on like just putting the phone there and just hitting record and then just uploading it instead of just doing it live while I'm doing it. So, although I have again another tangent. What's that say? Oh, you want the money? So uno momento, por favor. Oh, this is, I won't say precarious, but it is precarious. So really quick tangent. It's a Duplo bunny. And it's where I keep my, when we have our friends' kids who are very young come over, I have it full of the various pieces of Duplo that I've gotten over the years in other lots. Really quick. I had 4 totes of Duplo in this house that I just acquired over the years. When I go to thrift stores or whatever, and you buy a bag of Lego, it's invariably sometimes comes with Duplo. And also, when I found in my garage selling, whatever, I found a really nice lot of Duplo, I would just buy it. I actually had the IntelliTrain, not the one that Jeff has, but the original IntelliTrain. I can't remember where I got it from, but I got it. It was used, and I loved it. The IntelliTrain I actually brought to one of our shows years and years ago. I set it up on a table, and I was actually, my plan back then was to make a Duplo train layout for a show. You know, you get the trees, you know, whatever. And but then I had a wife and kid, and there's not a lot of space in this house. So I put 4 totes of Duplo on the Kijijis at the time because Marketplace wasn't available, and I put it up for $200-300. And a nice lady in the West End of Hamilton who had her own kids bought it, so I dropped off 4 totes of Duplo on her doorstep. So, and again, no regrets. The one thing I should have done, because she had young kids, I should have just kept the IntelliTrain, but I didn't. You get the entire lot, every piece of Duplo that I've had, because I'm a Lego fan. Overall, Duplo was after I was a kid. Like Duplo didn't come out to the mid '70s, if I remember correctly. I was already too old for it. So I'm not, you know, Duplo is cool. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that they do have. I'm right now today in this house. I have 2 totes of Quattro. Guess whatever. I see Quattro at the thrift store. I buy it. So I'm trying to sell that, and nobody's buying it, but whatever. The only thing I kept for Duplo was the rabbit. And again, I don't know where I got the rabbit. It's such a cute rabbit, though. It is such a cute rabbit. And so let me just get this over here. And it's I think it's got the original Duplo logo on it, because I think they changed the Duplo logo since then. And so all the pieces that are in here now are pieces that I've acquired in used lots since I sold my 4 totes of Duplo. The other thing is, I think I gave it to Janie for Christmas a bunch of years back. There's a Duplo set that is it's a stage play thing, and it has a big Duplo brick about this big, and it has buttons on the front. It's white, and it makes various sounds like ghosts and wind and whatever, and music and whatever. It's a stage play, and you got the Duplo characters that you can make a stage, and you can build a bit of a stage, and it has backdrops on it. And I found that at a garage sale, and I thought that was the most brilliant thing. Like, I love it when Lego goes off script. And to me, that theater, we'll call it, was an absolutely brilliant set that they released. Because yes, it's a building thing, because you can build the theater, and but then you have a story, and you can like be a director, and you can have this whole stage play with all the characters in it, and it has sound effects with it. And I thought, I love when Lego does that, like the musical notes. Let me get this out. I have 2 of the 3 musical note maker thingies. I got them off of Mike Shields. I love this. Oh yeah, there's one of the police sirens in there. But it's quote unquote off script from just basic building, right? It's adventure time. It's like just music time. It's whatever. And I know they do it more, and overall I don't pay attention. But Lego has a wonderful habit of every once in a while just doing something, just throwing it against the wall, see what happens. My issue with them when they do that is that they just stop doing it, because those musical notes just came out, I think, 1 year. That was it, and then they're done. Excuse me. And I thought that was just a brilliant thing for them to do. That's my rabbit. It's the one piece of Duplo I'm never going to get rid of. So the rest of it is, I mean, these guys show up in lots. So it is what it is. And so as soon as I get enough Duplo together, I'm going to put it in the bin. I'm going to put it on Kijiji or Marketplace, because I don't build, like a lot of people. I keep my Duplo because I do these big layouts and they make for great filler. Yes, they do. They really do. I don't do that. But if you want them, but you're not getting a rabbit. The rabbit's mine. So back to this guy. So I was getting him together, and the reason why I started this video, a million minutes ago, 31 minutes ago, is because I was trying to find enough tires to make them. You're supposed to have 6 old gray hubs. And I wanted, this is me, quote unquote flexing. These are the black hubs that I have not used yet. And the black hubs came in the rocket launcher and the solar power transporter. And I'm sure a few other sets, but those are the only ones I care about. Okay, so the slimy tires did not start, and I won't remember the year. My original tires that came in the set were not slimy when they came out of the box. And so I remember distinctly, and I don't remember when, I think it was halfway through the 80s, when the tires started becoming slimy. Maybe it was later, but I remember it's the same as you said. The tires become slimy, and it's a manufacturing process. They changed it to make the tires slimy, and I guess it's easier to get out of the molds. I'm not sure. But there's actually a justification from Lego, and somebody told me this on Lugnet years ago, that it's actually deliberate like that. And I'm going, so yes, no, these are original 70s and early 80s. None of them are slimy. So the newer ones, are, and it was done deliberately. I'm glad I got the old ones. Let's say that. So anyway, these hubs, they break easy. They break very easy. And so when I was going through my bin, c'est la vie. It is what it is. I will also say on the slimy versus non-slimy wheel sets, this one's a little. This must have been a newer one because it's a little. I think they dry out after decades. But the original rubber from the 70s and the early 80s, they get so hard they lose their. Yeah, Don will clear it up. They lose their flexibility, shall we say? I have a whole bunch of black, with the steel axle, the one you step on and hurt your feet, that came out in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. The ones with they started with the light gray tires, they went to the black. I have a whole bunch of those rubber tires that are so, they're not brittle, they're hard as anything, and you can't get them off the rim, nor can you get them back on the rim if they're off the rim now. And because there's so, and you probably, I know there's probably ways of fixing that, but I got so many and I don't care. But these original ones that I have from way back in the 70s, they're very, very stiff. Thankfully, these ones are not. But if you're trying to pop the hub inside and out of them, you have to find the ones that are pliable. That's a good word for it, pliable. So I have to get 6 tires. I got 3. I got 6 tires. And this one is starting to go. There's a crack in the top you can see. It's a little sad, but this would have factored into my life back in my teens, because this was a playable set back in my teens, and now it's quote unquote a display set for me. And it's just like, if you watch my video of just me on the other day with this guy, which is still on my desk, and how I was trying to get it apart, and all of a sudden this entire center part disintegrated because I put a little too much strength into it. This is the display piece for me. I mean, there's huge swoosh factor. I did that for a minute because I am a 12-year-old kid inside a 55-year-old body. Um, this is a display piece. It's going to be up on my shelf, and I'm going to take it to shows, and it's going to go on a table. So I don't have to worry about taking it, putting it together, and taking it apart as much as a kid who is going to want to do that. So kids out there, be very, very careful when you're taking this thing apart and you put your finger right there and press on it because the whole thing's going to come apart. So, a warning to the wise. But I started this video because I wanted to talk about these tires. We went off on a whole bunch of tangents to get to these tires. Um, I love the tangents. I got some yellow ends. So this is my bin of those old hubs on whatever size tires that came in, the smaller tires that came with the R2D2, except they're gray. I think, do I still have a gray in here? Yeah, I still have my gray tires in here. These were slimy. They feel slimy right now. So R2D2 had the slimy tires. I think they came in a few other sets, the old gray rubber and the old gray hub. They came in other sets, but I remember getting them with my R2D2. My Mindstorms, no, it was Droid Developer Kit. I had to think about that for a sec. The memory goes. Droid Developer Kit the first year. The second year was the at Walker. Yeah, the Droid Kit was fantastic. I got two R2D2s up there. And I ordered off of Bricklink the other half of the dome for one of them. So I have a full dome on one of them. It is just a cute set, and I would bring that to Lego shows and just let it run around. It was one of my favorite things. And the fact that it had the light sensor on it that could connect to the Scout, which is what I used to do because again, when I was right into Mindstorms with the RCXs and the Scout and the Micro Scout and even the Spybotics, because I helped write a book. Thanks, thanks Ralph for that. I didn't know. Ralph wrote it. I did some checking on it. But anyway, but my name's on the book. So Ralph was very, very kind and sweet to me. I like Spybotics and I like the Micro Scout and I like the Scout and I like the boost. Like see, Josh, I bought the boost for Josh a few years back, and we had fun with that. It was like the Scout again, and it wasn't convoluted. Like I was old enough to use the RCX and then download NQC and stuff like that, but the RCX out of the box. I can see why 8-year-olds would be frustrated with it. Not for 8 years old, but I was frustrated. The software was frustrating. The IR was frustrating. Everything was frustrating about it until NQC showed up. And then when NQC showed up, done. And of course, then I entered robot competitions, RTL Toronto. But I loved the Scouts. I loved the Droid Developer Kits. I never bought the AT-AT off the store shelf. I only bought the R2D2 off the store shelf. If I may use Mindstorm's kits because the RCX VSRL was a pain to set up. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. This is because I was so heavy onto LugNet at the time, and the robotics news groups at the time, and there was Dave Baum with the NQC, and my friend Steve Hasenplug, and all those guys, Ralph Hempel, really good guy. It got down to a science where the driver for the IR port, you just download it and you install NQC, and that's all you had to do. And NQC, because of fluorescence would interfere with the IR, you learn to like put a blanket or a sheet over top. So when you're trying to communicate between the IR and the RCX, that would help 98% of the issues. But even to this day, and I can go into so many stories of why I do use RCXs in my space layout, and yet I try to limit the number of RCXs talking to one another because the IR talking to one another is very extremely temperamental, which is why I removed you. If you go back to my YouTube channel, you will see that I controlled the monorail and the trains way back in the day because we put DCC chips in the trains, and I put DCC in my monorail, digital command control in my monorail, and I had the RCX with Mark Riley's firmware on there to be LDCC, Lego DCC, and I was controlling trains and monorail with DCC, which is I think the most fantastic thing in the world. And then I would have another RCX with the sensors input. So there's a light sensor or a touch sensor. So it knew where it is on the layout to tell the DCC chip to stop or go backwards or whatever. The problem is that the one RCX had to communicate to the other RCX through IR. And Mark Riley's DCC firmware did not have a corresponding acknowledge bit back to the one that's telling it, hey, your train's there, stop it. And so there was no way for the one RCX that was controlling everything to tell the DCC or know what the DCC got its signals. And so I got to the point where my controlling DCC, my controlling RCX was just spamming via IR the DCC, and that just got stupid. And so it would work 95% of the time. The problem is when it didn't work, the whole thing screws up. If you're ever doing robotics and you're trying to send a signal for one motor to stop and the signal gets lost and the motor's still running, that's what happens. So if you go right back and you go almost to the beginning of my YouTube channel back 15 years ago as Palisade Villa, it is it's an entire layout that I had built in the basement here that I was going to start bringing to shows when I populated it more. But it was 2 loops of train track, well, 3 loops of train track. That was a huge great ball contraption. And it was completely controlled by 2 RCXs, one that was running DCC and one that was running figuring out where all the sensors are, and was also controlling the switches, the train switches, the track switches, because I motorized the track switches. And so the one RCX would flip a switch and the train would back up and unload the balls and whatever. It was fun. It was absolutely fun. And again, 99% of the time it worked flawlessly. And my issue is that the 1% of the time when it didn't, it was an unmitigated disaster. It was not show ready. And you'll hear me say this over my life. Dave, why aren't you bringing that to the shows anymore? Because it's not show ready. I had so much stuff in my layout. There's still motors and RCXs built into the tower. Built into the tower. The door is supposed to come up. The ship is supposed to come out. That's all done by RCX. And when it works, it's beautiful. You press the button, the door comes up, the ship comes out, it's all flashy and whatever, and then it just stops. Okay, RCX to NXT. NXT, there was and I can't remember his name. It's sad because he used to build third-party NXT sensors and stuff. And he was a really good guy, and I remember talking about him on LugNet. But he had an infrared sensor, not sensor, light that you can plug into the NXT that would communicate to the RCX. There was an adapter, a module, little thing that you could plug into the NXT to send signals to the RCX. The other way you can do it is light sensor to communicate between, but the IR sensor worked very, very well. My problem with the NXT is I never liked it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I was so, and again, I'm so freaking old school. It's not funny. I loved my RCXs, and again, I have a whole box of them over there. But they were so easy to build into anything I wanted to build it into, and I was so adaptable with it. And when the NXT came along, it was all studless, and I can't build studless unless I'm following instructions. And I found the motors to be bigger and harder to build into things. Although there was a brief period of time when I was hardcore into the NXT, because again, my friend Steve Hasenplug started building robots that had GPS sensors on it, and he would have like an obstacle course in his backyard or even in the city, a block. So he built a robot with tires on it, and it had to go from point to point via GPS. And I thought I want in on that one. I want in on that one. And so I remember building a robot that was not as good as his, but and I bought the GPS. It's right over. I have it somewhere over there. The GPS is just a Bluetooth GPS, and it plugs right into the NXT with Bluetooth. I connected to the NXT with Bluetooth to give it its coordinates, and then you program it to say, "This is your GPS coordinate here, and there's your GPS coordinate there," and you hit go, and then you can make stops, and then Steve's what do you call that? What Steve was trying to on his thing, he said, "Oh, this is I'm tired now." Steve's it wasn't a competition, but Steve's we'll call it a competition like the GBC. Steve's idea that he put out there on his channel was to say, what you do is you walk around with your little robot and you press the button to say this is a stop, and then you walk 300 feet that way. This is a stop, and you walk 300 feet over there, and then you put your thing down and you hit go, and it's supposed to follow your path. I love that. I mean, I think that was not too big to hand, like the too over like engineered to do. And the issue is that you would have sometimes you have to go across grass. So I used a big droid, not the thing from Star Wars Episode 2, the big gray wheels. Right, the big Technic wheels. So your robot is off the ground, and those just the wheels are spinning in the grass. You had to make it rugged and like a 4x4. Um, so he a challenge. That's it. He had a challenge, and I was almost successful with that. And there's a lot of programming in the NXT, and figuring out how to convert GPS coordinates into decimal, X and Y axes. So you say you're here now, which way to turn the robot to go, and you set your next way stop. It was a lot of fun. It was honestly, I found it to be more fun than Connect Four that we used to do with the Connect Four. Um, which is the one robot competition. There's a few, but that was the one I didn't enter because I couldn't wrap my mind around the programming. So I did not enter a Connect for a robot. I entered most of the RTL Toronto robot competitions, but that's the one I did not purposely did not enter because I just couldn't do it. Um, that's my deficiency. Um, I was there during the competition, and I was just enthralled by the robots that were and Steve. Again, speaking of Steve, he was there. I came all the way up from the States, and his robot was fantastic, and everybody else's robot was fantastic. It's hard to say what my favorite robot competition was for RTL Toronto. Project X was a lot of fun. Project X was a lot of fun. Period. It was just night, Barry Perfects. I don't know if I have any videos of Project X on my channel, but it was great. I would also say that the brick exchange was great, absolutely great. Block stacking and block sorting was fine. We did that for the first bunch. The balance beam where Janie beat me, I still remember that to this day. That was loads of fun. But I think Project X was my favorite programming slash hardware building challenge. Project X was, and the amount of different ideas for that were at the actual show was astounding. Rob's was astounding. I think Callum's friend, Mario, was just beautiful. Mine was okay. I don't think I won that one. I think Rob won that one with his gantry. Just brilliant. Um, but I think Mario's mechanism for picking the brick up, the block up, and putting it back down was, I still to this day cannot figure out how it worked, because it was kind of like a zigzag, and it come down and grab it and go back up, and just beautiful mechanism for picking up the block. Um, so I love Project X. But the block exchange one, I think it was one of our last ones. I mean, it started off being a naughty Valentine's Day. I should actually start making videos for RTL Toronto. It started off being a naughty idea for Valentine's Day block exchange, but it turned out to be a very, very extremely fun, because there was more than two robots on the floor at the same time. We had our little layout, our 8x8 arena, and usually it'd be one robot against another robot. Whereas Block Exchange, all the robots are out there. So again, I do have a video of that one back in my YouTube channel. I love that one because you got all these robots moving around, and then you have to account for that in your programming and your design of the robot. I won't say who won that, but it was a lot of fun. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed too. So I'm going to stop this. I'm gonna figure out how. This was a lot of fun for me tonight, and I'm gonna put this thing back in before we stop it. This was a lot of fun for me tonight. I'm gonna probably do more lives instead of just me just recording for an hour and then uploading it, because I think we can save the lives. And we'll see how this goes. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, for whoever did, and I'm sorry if I didn't answer your questions because I wasn't seeing the text at the bottom of my screen. Next time I'm going to have it. Before we go, I'm going to see if I can see it on my computer because there's no, on my channel. Do I actually have? I have a live. Look at that. I'm gonna. now I got an echo. Look at that. Okay, mute. So now I'll be able to, new pin chat, don't care. Oh, look at all the people. I'm sorry, everybody. Happy New Year. A little late. Next time I'm going to have that up so I can actually read you, because this is my phone, and my phone is not, it's a little tiny text, and this way over there. But I can read my text over there. So I'm going to have that up next time so I can interact with you guys more. So that's it. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for taking out for me for an evening. And I will talk to you guys soon.